Welcome to another episode of the vlog where I discuss my ongoing progress on completing my PhD. My PhD is in Theatre and Performance Studies in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and this morning I am getting a bit of outlining done on my second chapter and adding a few things to my first and third chapters because I found some past writing I did that reminded me of some things I could include, some theorists I had forgotten about. Yesterday I actually didn't film or update you at all because it was kind of a rough day for PhD work, but this morning I am making progress. If you're new here, you might not know that every weekday morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. I hop on a video call with a friend who's doing their PhD in Germany, and we just sit and work in Pomodoro sessions, so 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, for like 2 to 2.5 hours. So I'm in the middle of one of those Pomodoro sessions now. Sometimes our breaks are longer than 5 minutes because we are discussing like problems we're having in our research that the other can help solve. And this just happened for me. So I was telling them that I was trying to outline my second chapter, but part of my issue with it is that it really kind of just feels like a connecting chapter between my first and third chapters, which makes me feel like it doesn't deserve its own chapter. It should kind of just be like a longer first chapter and a longer third chapter. Ultimately, I think a lot of the roadblocks in the PhD are actually just like conceptual, mental, emotional roadblocks because I should just keep writing this as a chapter and see what happens, but I get in my head about whether it is a chapter or not, and that, just those thoughts, is what blocks me from writing the chapter. Anyway, the thing that they were able to help me solve was this idea that I use the word object differently in the first chapter from the second chapter and third chapter. And so in the first chapter, I sort of posit a definition of object, and then in the second chapter, I revise that definition. And I was saying, like, I feel kind of weird because, like, what was the point of even defining it in the first way? And we talked about, the importance of giving the audience, like the reader, the tools that they need to read your dissertation. And I talked about like ramping them up to the more complex ideas later in my dissertation. But another thing they suggested, which happens a lot in philosophy, which is what their degree is in, ancient philosophy, is that I could capitalize the word object when I am using it in the particular way I define in the first chapter. And this doesn't so much solve my different usage between chapters. However, it did end up solving a problem within my first chapter because the word object gets used a lot. Like I could just say the object of my research or whatever. So capitalizing the word object when I mean it in this like particular technical sense and not capitalizing it in all other instances is actually going to be super helpful for my reader, I think, in understanding my first chapter and me in conceptualizing my first chapter. Because I was like writing and avoiding the words object and thing unless I meant them in this really particular way. But that was kind of difficult and felt a bit unnatural. And the thing is, like, I still do want to refer to objects in the non-technical way because, like, that is a word that people use. So I've just added a note for myself at the beginning of my first chapter that I will be capitalizing the words object and thing when I mean them in the way that I am going to define in my first chapter. And for now anyway, I think that's a really sleek, nice solution to a problem I didn't even realize needed a solution. And at some point I will have to go back through and capitalize every instance of the word object that has that technical definition, but I'm not going to do it now because right now I'm just trying to finish the draft. That is a little thing that if I decide to leave that idea in my dissertation, I can edit in later. So anyway, I'm going to get back to it now. I am going to go back to like the outlining phase of my second chapter so that I'm more straight on things and I've got all the research in one place before I write it proper. Welcome to another morning and therefore another round of PhD work. And this morning I wanted to share my screen a little bit with you to show you how I'm outlining and also the benefit of having everything in Obsidian while I'm outlining. So here's the screen. So I'm currently outlining in a Google Doc away from Obsidian, and then I'm going to write it in Obsidian. And this little subsection that I'm working on is about flat ontologies, meaning there's no like hierarchy of being in the ontology. All beings exist or be equally. So I'm using heading 2 for this bit, and then I'm using heading 3 for this bit as I like section things off. And I don't know if these headings will remain when I actually write the document. But anyway, I'm, all of these subheadings. So I'm like, why limiting being would be a problem. A flattened ontology and what that would look like. And then the big problems that arise. And then within that, I have 2 more organizational bits, which I've just bolded. So there's the first problem that arises that I want to talk about, and there's the second problem that arises that I want to talk about. And then you'll see that I am putting in quotes like this one from Behar from the book that I was reading. And this would have taken a lot less time if I had already put quotes from that book into my Obsidian, but I hadn't. So now I have, there they are. There's the notes that I put in, and then I grabbed a couple of those to put into my draft. But if these notes had already been here, it would have been so easy to just grab them, pull them in, go back to working. But first I had to put them into my Obsidian or like onto the computer somehow, and I might as well put them into Obsidian so I have them for another time later. And then I had to put them into my outline. But here's where Obsidian is really helpful. I just searched for flat ontology, and when I do that, all of the documents that mention flat ontology come up here, and they're all like collapsed. So then when I click into it, I can see how the term flat ontology was used in that text. And then I can also see I actually do have a note called flat ontology where I'm collecting everything to do with flat ontology. So having all of those quotes already in Obsidian and everything I've talked about in Obsidian already makes it so easy to just search for a term and find everything I need to know about that term to then drop those quotes into my dissertation outline. And then once I've got all my quotes in that outline, I'm going to go back into Obsidian and I'm going to actually write the dissertation. And I like writing it in Obsidian first because it makes me feel less formal. It feels like just this casual thing that I'm drafting. And then once I have like a full draft, I'll actually pull it into Microsoft Word, and that'll be my like official feeling thing with any citations and etc. And that's where I will connect Zotero. That's the plan for now anyway. I thought that might be interesting to see, but I'm going to get back to it now. So talk to you in the next clip. After my Thursday workday, I went away for the weekend with my mom, and I packed a few books with me, including Contemporary Circus, which is a series of interviews with circus artists and directors, because one of the voices featured in this book is the director of a circus show I saw over the weekend called Humans by the company Circa, based out of Australia. This weekend, while I'm away, I have 2 goals: finish my second chapter outline and finish reading Less by Andrew Sean Greer so that I can give it to my mom to read. That's Valentine, my mom's dog. Today is actually a Friday. This morning I got on my PhD co-working call and I worked on that second chapter. It's coming along, but now I think that I'm getting into this struggle of overwriting as I do, and my outline is getting a little too unwieldy. So I think maybe I'm at the point where I do just need to start writing from that outline. But before I do start writing, I want to try verbally explaining the outline of the second chapter to somebody out loud to see if it kind of makes sense naturally in my words and to somebody else. See if they can like follow the outline that I have made for myself. And if so, then that probably means it's a decent outline. If I get confused while telling that story, then it's probably not a clear and succinct enough story yet. So I'm going to try to do that this weekend and then see where the outline needs to be adjusted or added to, but then I'll be able to start like the writing process of that chapter, which should go very quickly because I've already collected a whole bunch of quotes in the outline. So that's what I'm working on this weekend, and I'm also getting to see a bunch of theater, so I'll take you along for the ride. The rest of this vlog features some of the adventures that my mom and I had over the weekend. I didn't do any more PhD work for Saturday or Sunday, but I did have a really fun, relaxing, rejuvenating weekend, and that's really important too. So come along with me as I visit bookstores, cafes, and get to meet a bunch of butterflies. That's one that I asked for Christmas. Oh no. This store is so stressful because for every line of books, there's another whole row of books behind it, and so you can only see half of the books that are even in this massive store. I've found 2 so far, including Punished by Rewards, which is exciting because my video that went viral, I was taking notes on this book, but I never actually finished the book because I got it from the library. But look at this. There's a whole other row of books back there.
Butterfly species has a preferred plant or group of plants that is the food for the caterpillar. These plants are referred to as host plants. As you can see, it doesn't take long for the zebra longwing butterflies to find their preferred host plant and get down to the business of laying their eggs. Watch as this female uses the tip of her abdomen to select a great spot on the tendril of this passion vine to lay her eggs. Butterfly production is kept on a strict schedule. The females in this cage will lay approximately 150 to 200 eggs within 24 hours to meet the weekly production goals. The constant
And that's a wrap on my weekend away. I finished my chapter outline and I finished Less by Andrew Sean Greer. Next, I'm reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. If you've been enjoying this series and you want to support my channel further, you can always give me a super thanks. There's a little button under my video with a $sign and the word thanks where you can actually tip me, and I'd really appreciate it. Next week, I'm going to be taking a break from the vlog to bring you a different video, so look forward to that. And afterwards, I'll get right back to the PhD vlogs. So I'll see you in another video again soon.